we have only 2 people, Abel and Karen. Is this correct? Okay. Well, not so good. Let's start with our case study today. Global supply chain networks. We are going to look at a case study. Just so that you know, this was one of the questions in the exam last year. This is a Michigan-based company. It says supplier for automobile. Companies, and they make windshield wipers. Okay. We have a current state, which is given. I gave you the other day the case study and ask you to read until page 17. And the exercise is to create, following a certain set of principles, which we will discuss, the ideal state. Well, it looks like people are joining in slowly, but still 2 and 4. So we will need to have a word about this later. So the idea is to create an ideal state for the company, given a certain set of parameters that we will talk about. Okay, so basically what we are doing is we are moving up in the level of technical complexification. As we have discussed already, we can look at a machine. Okay, so and this can be our machine, a process. Whenever we analyze processes, okay. We can look at a machine so machine. Within the machine, you can find, let's say, many parts, like the gears, and within these parts. So a machine is just a set of elements, okay, in which things are happening, or let's say a process is a set of elements in which things are happening, hydraulic, electric, and so on. Within these elements, Maschinenelemente heißen die. Within these elements, you can also find a set of a network of sensors that interchange information. These sensors are intelligent somehow, so that certain processes can happen, and so on. Within the sensors, you can find chips, and this goes on and on until on the atomic level. So you find a complexity going down the machine. We have started our complexity analysis on a macroscopic way with machines, but so that you know we can continue it with to the most detail. We continue then adding up complexity when we take several of these machines and put them in a production line. Okay. And this is what we have called a value stream. Okay, we can put several of these value streams in a factory. Okay, so these value streams are organized in a certain manner so that you transform an input into an output in a factory. Okay. And you can also put certain factories in a supply chain network. Okay, so if you put and add up a little bit of zoom out, if you think about this as the world, okay, you can put a factory in let's say in Korea. Let that factory deliver to your factory in Brazil, and then you deliver to Germany to get your product to the customer. Okay, so this is, let's say this is Europe, Spain and Italy, and I don't know, Russia, and then I get here Africa, and then I get here America and Brazil. Okay, and so what you get is a whole bunch of processes organized in a way that split the continents. But what you see is that you get a bunch of factories coordinated to get a value chain organized. Okay, so you see we go from the very little to the supply chain network. And we are constantly adding levels of complexity to this whole idea. Okay? Any questions to this? So today we are going to focus here. Our focus today and probably tomorrow is going to be here. Okay? We look at value chains, supply chain networks at a global level. Does it make sense? So far? I'm going to check again. 1, 2, 5, 8, 11, 15. Good. Yeah, I was wondering why so little assistance was in the beginning, but now I guess there are 15 people online, which is normal. So good morning, everybody. Maybe we can wait one or 2 minutes until everyone is online. Okay, so some of you are already online. We can start, I guess. Again, apologies for yesterday. I didn't know that you had your student meeting. I would like to deal with a case study. Okay, please study this in detail because I will definitely ask about this in the exam. You have the full information in the PDF I sent you. And in the lecture, I would like to highlight some details. I am not going to explain everything in the lecture, but please make sure that you study this book thoroughly, okay? So in detail, because I will ask about this also in the exam in detail. Anyway, we are dealing in this case study with supply chain network. So we are looking at the whole world, if you wish, okay, at a very global perspective. But I would like to highlight that the methods that we learn here are valid for both factory, value stream, machine, elements, sensor levels, atomic level, and so on. Okay, so we look at the supply chain network example because this is a supplier manager lecture, but you can use this logic for any level of abstraction. Okay, and this is also important because later on you will deal with different levels of abstraction. I hope this is clear. One thing that I would like to start with is with a reminder on how to map processes, mapping processes. Some of you have seen this before, but some of you not, so I will repeat again. The way we do this here is we create one vertical line. Okay, this is just a general remark. Then one horizontal line, meaning the time or the sequence. Then the first element that we need is or the first elements that we are looking for are the process owners. So here are the process owners. And a process owner is anyone touching material or information flow. Okay, anyone touching material and or information flow. Okay, so whoever touches material or information flow is dubbed a process owner in our process. And this is the first element that we are looking for. The second dimension that we look at is, of course, the process steps. Whatever people do with this material and information flow to create necessary value for the customer. Okay, these are the process steps. And put them in blue. Okay. So whatever people do, and then lastly we have our information and material flow. I'm gonna make information in or material flow in yellow and in red. Okay, this is material flow. And then we also have information flow, typically running backwards. I will paint it in blue. Always remember that information leads material, okay? So most important part of a process is the information flow. And also the most difficult to understand. Okay? So these 4 elements are the basic elements of a process or of mapping a process. Process owner, a list of the process owners, process steps, material flow, and information flow. You can add also inventory if you want and stuff like that. As much detail as possible, and we will look at one example today. Okay? So one exercise for you at home. Map one day of your life with this method. Okay? You can send it to me if you want, so that we talk about it. So, any questions regarding this? Something some of you already knew. Okay, so we start with a case study. We have said I'm gonna assume that you have read the introductory pages. We have 4 factories. We try to first map the current state of the process, and we will do that step by step. For this, we need one value stream team with at least one responsible for each facility. Okay, so what we have basically is for factories, one, 2, 3, and 4. Here we have the Michigan Steel, And here we have the sales manager. As responsible. Here what we do is we create steel coils. Then we have the so-called stampers. In Deutsch Schmiede. Here we have a value stream manager. Usually the value stream manager, let me paint here a little star or point as explanation. Does anybody know what a value stream manager means? Okay, so you know, in an organization you can have different hierarchies, okay? Wait. You can have different departments organized in a hierarchy. So the department production, department logistics has different hierarchies. And the hierarchical organization works very well. The problem with this organization is that you get silos, and that's why you need horizontal functions, functional roles, as it's usually said, functional roles that operate along the organization. Some are the quality department, some are the I don't know, controlling department, and so on, okay? The HR. So these are functional roles. And these are hierarchical roles. So one of these functional roles is the value stream manager. Is somebody that does not have a leadership role in the organization. He doesn't have usually people below him or her, but he's an expert of the process, okay? This person, he or she is an expert of the process and controls and can give information along the value stream. It's one of the best entry levels that you can get in an organization. So if you manage to get an entry role in an organization based on value stream mapping or value stream manager, make sure you accept it, okay? It's very rewarding because you can get in touch with a lot of people in the organization, and you get a network very fast. Okay, is it understood? Yes, makes sense. So as I said, if you start in an organization and you can get a value stream manager role, make sure you accept it. So once you get the coils, you get to stamp them. So you get some metal parts. Okay. After this, you get to the wipers itself. Wipers. And here you have two people. First the line manager, and here the plan manager. Okay, so here you get the actual wiper itself. And finally you get to the final customer, the guy installing the wipers into the car, who is playing the role of a supplier manager. And this is the role that we are going to take in this lecture, so that you learn what a supplier manager does. So that's the windshield. I'm sorry for the poor comic. That's the windshield, and the wipers. Sorry. So you get an idea of what I'm talking about, right? So we first get the role of the supply manager. We play the role. Manager at Alpha Motors. Okay. And here what happens is that we are dealing with some information and material flow, just as we had before. And we want to understand what's going on and what we can do to get better. That's the material flow, and then we have our information flow as well. So going backwards. Trying to get a pull process, but poorly achieving it. So, okay, so this is a very rough estimation of what is going on in the creation of the wipers. Okay. So, any questions so far? Any questions, please? So we are the supplier manager at Alpha Motors. So we are this guy. And we want to know what happens into the process. So we map, we are going to map the global value stream, and this is what I advise you to do if you are ever a supplier manager. This is what I advise you to do first thing when you get into the role. Okay, the global value stream of the entire process we deal with. Okay, make sure you follow this roadmap, and I can guarantee you will be successful in your supplier manager role. In order to do that, we already said we need one value stream team. Of course, the leader is the customer. Supplier manager at Alpha Motors. Okay, and you, and this is important, need to go to the facilities physically. So this is something that you cannot do via WebEx. Okay, this is something that you cannot rely on. You need to go and see. Okay, super important. So if the factory is in Taiwan, you take a plane and go to Taiwan. Okay, this is something that is very important. In order to map the process activities, you will need, if it's a worldwide process, approximately 1 month. So you go, I don't know, from the customer in Japan to the supplier in Germany. From the supplier in Germany, you go to the US. From the US, you go to Brazil. From Brazil, you go to South Africa. Okay? And you spend some time on each facility. So now I'm going to share with you the this is what you have in your PDF. Okay, this the physical actions required. Physical actions required to perform the process. And this list of actions is what you perform in your visit of the facilities. Okay, so you see you have a list of let's say steps. Then you map how many value creating steps, you map the total time of each step, and you map the value creating time. And try to be as accurate as possible. Okay, so the way to do this is to so how do I do it? Oh wait, share. Okay, is it clear what we do? Hello? Yep. So you just put on your shoestrings and you start talking to people, organizing your team. So you get together your team of these guys. You have come from, of course you're the customer. Okay, so you're the supply manager. So everybody dances on your tune, on your music. You're the boss in some way. So you talk to your customer, to your supplier, line manager, plant manager. They're interested in serving you, so their supplier is also interested, and their supplier of the supplier, it's also interested. So it's what it's called tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and so on. Okay. So, but you know all that. Basically, what we do here is we make a list of the steps of the steps that a product goes through. We map the number of value creating steps. We map the total time. And we map the total value creating time. Total steps total time value creating time. Okay. Just make a list. It can be as long as you wish. The more detail, the better, so that you get a pretty accurate idea on how to deal with what the process is going on, okay, or what the product goes through. You make a list, and after getting your list, what you create is a summary. Okay. Summary, which is basically something like this. I mean, you can find all this information in the PDF, but horizontal line. In your summary, you get following information. You get the number of steps. You get the amount of time. You say total. Okay. And value creating. Value. Can somebody tell me what value creating means? Value creation. Yeah, Wertschöpfung. Yeah, good. But what do we mean by wertschöpfende Prozesse? Who defines what is wertschöpfend, what is value creating, what's not? A value creating process steps or anything that is value creating is whatever the customer is ready to pay for. If the customer is not ready to pay for it, then it's not value creating. Okay, in German, wertschöpfend. Okay. This is important, and always the focus is on the customer. So for our example here, the summary can be found on page, let me look, 17, okay? We have a total number of steps of 73, and 8 of them are value creating. We have a total lead time of 44.3 days and a value creating sum up of 54.7 minutes. So first you will say, oh my God, what are we doing? Okay, and this is really the tragedy of capitalism. Okay, this is really the tragedy of our world. This is why we have a climate crisis. This is why we have hundreds of deaths every year because of climate or air quality issues, and so on and so forth. This is the real, or one of the most important problems of humanity is supply chains are poorly designed because of economic interests. Okay, we will see now when we map the process. The distance, totally distance that the product goes through is 53,000 miles. And the number of transport links so every time we need to bring down the product from the truck or from the plane or from the ship and put it into another transportation media is a transport link. So this is a problem, okay, because we have 54 minutes, 54, 55 minutes, 1 hour if you wish, of value creating divided by 44.3 days. This is approximately 1 hour, okay, so 1 divided by 24 days divided by 44.3 days, and this equals 1 divided by 24 times 44.3, 1,000, 1 divided by 1,000. This is approximate, okay? This means the interpretation, the management interpretation of this is that for every value creating minute, we have 1,000 non-value creating minutes. In other words, so does it make sense mathematically? Can you follow? Yes or no? No, a D is a day. Okay, D is a day. So if you put a day, okay, here, in order to make the quotient, we need to put days also up. So 54.7 minutes is almost 1 hour. Okay, so that's why I put here 1 hour. And 1 day has 24 hours. So 1 divided by 24 in days. That's why I put this as approximate. Does it make sense? So if you want to do it exactly, you can do it exactly. Of course, you can divide 54.7. Okay, we can do it. The calculation is like this: 54.7 times 60, or divided by 60. This is in hours, okay? And this divided by 24 hours per day gives you days, gives you the number of days. So it's 54.7 divided by 60 and divided again by 24. So this is 0.037986 days, okay? And this is the same as 54.7 minutes. Okay, and you divide that by 0.3037986. If you divide that by 44.3, you get 0.00085747. So basically what we have is almost 1 divided by 1000, which is 0.001. Okay? Does it make sense? I don't know if it was Christian who asked. Yeah, okay, cool. Just transforming to, just to give you a rough estimation. Basically what I'm trying to say is that the customer needs to pay, the customer is paying for 1000 units of time when the customer is only getting 1. Okay, so the customer pays for everything 1000 units of time, you know, along the value stream, all the tasks that the supplier manager, the diaper, the gum stampers, the Michigan steel, whatever, I mean, they're paying for everything in the end, while they are only getting 1 unit of time in value. Okay, and this is of course something that we need to, or you will need to deal with whenever you are a supplier manager. If you get this role in your organization, be sure that you always have potential, okay, in your process. There is always going to be potential. What is the benchmark? Just a little note, the benchmark in the automobile industry as of today is Toyota, which has been reported to have 1 to 300. Okay, so this means that the best of the best have, for every value creating minute, they have 300 non-value creating minutes, which is still a lot, but is the best we have. So, questions so far? So this information is useful, but still not very actionable. Okay, the information is useful, but not actionable. We need to map the process current state so that managers can act on it. Okay, that's why we create the current state map, so-called current state map, based on the information we have gathered after 1 month of traveling around and building relationships with the customer and with the suppliers. Okay, so I'm going to put it into the next page so that you have a neat cut into your PDF. Okay, so we start with a customer, and the reason why I do this exercise is so that, because of course I could tell you, okay, just read the book, okay, but the reason why I do it is because it's very, in my opinion, very helpful for your learning process, that you see how this thing develops, okay? So we start with a blanco piece of page, okay? So we have nothing but our shoes, a piece of paper, and a pen, okay? So we have ourselves, our, let's say, our brain, you know, your team, the value stream team, with your brains on it and your experience, and you know, this is the value stream team. Plus you have a piece of paper, and pen, okay, a pencil, plus maybe a camera to make pictures if allowed, plus your shoes. Meaning that you need to go and see. Okay, just jump in the plane and you have nothing more than that. No computer. In this case, do not use your computer, do not use Python, you do not, no. We are now dealing with people. We are now dealing with processes that are very complex. So that's here, in this case, we need emotional intelligence to talk to people, to get information that is valuable to, you need trust, okay? So I hope it makes sense. The whole thing we saw the first day. Here you need to be trustworthy. If the people have the feeling that you're going to rip them off, they will not give you the necessary information that you need to get better, okay, as a whole, and stuff like that, okay? So this is the human side of, and that's why it's such a good training if you are, let's say, a future potential leader in your organization. It's the best training you can get to get a network and to learn about processes and people. Okay, so I strongly advise you that you look for such jobs as a value stream leader. Also, when you apply for a job, make sure you put in some line that you have seen global value stream mapping, okay, in your resume, because this is what we're doing. Okay, we're doing global value stream mapping here, okay? So this is a skill that it's very useful, and not very many people have it. Anyway, so the reason why I do this is to get is so that you get an idea of how this whole mapping works. That's why I take the time to map the process that is already in the book. Okay, so you can come back to that later on. We start with the customer. And we cannot put all the information that we have about the customer. The customer is Alpha Motors, so it's going to be your Alpha distribution center. It's in Cleveland. You need to get a feeling of how much detail we are looking for, because we are mapping something for the management, okay? And what we're doing here is we are giving management some useful information, okay? So we're not giving them all the information we have. We give them useful information in order to make decisions later on. What is this useful information? We get 960 pieces per day. Pieces per day. And they are 640 of type A and 320 of type B. Okay? So this information is what we need. Our customer is having this demand. Okay? So first we show the customer. Is that cool? I'm going to be making little numbers here so that in the end we get a picture of what was first and what was not first. The customer on top right. So please give me feedback. Is that understood? Thank you. The next is we get a supplier. Okay. Here we have the Michigan steel. In our book, it's page 20. Steel Service Company. And this is in Dearborn Heights, Michigan. A very ugly place, as I can recall. So this is number 2. If you want me to stop at any step, just let me know, okay? What we're doing is we're putting what we already have here in a rough manner, okay? This we have now Alpha motors, we have Michigan steel, we're gonna get gamma stampers and beta wipers in place. Okay, so we're going to have a detailed information about all this. Okay? Questions? Good. Well, the next one is we get here our gamma stamping. And this is in New York State. Okay. After that, we get our warehouse. So we produce to a warehouse. With all the beta wipers warehouse. Where you get your stamped wipers. This is in Arlington, Texas. So you go, first you go from Michigan to New York and then to Texas. Okay. From there you go to, it's like from Michigan to New York, it's like from, let's say, Stuttgart to, I would say, Moscow. No, from Michigan to New York is from Stuttgart to Lisbon. And then from New York to Texas is from Lisbon to Moscow, something like that. Okay. Then you go and you move from Texas to Mexico. Beta wipers assembly. This is in Reynosa, Mexico. Okay. This is not New York, it's New Jersey. Well, it doesn't matter. It's the state. I think it's the state of New York. I'm not really sure. From there, so from Mexico, you go back and you get your cross-dock. So again, a logistics center where you change the trucks and you consolidate and stuff. Better wipers. Cross-dock. The symbol is just a consolidation of material. This is in Harlingen again. Harlingen, I guess it's called Harlingen, Texas, not Harlington. From there, you go to the Alpha Motors crossdock. So Alpha. So the same thing, we do the same thing. Basically, we change our material. This is in El Paso, Texas, and then we have our factory again in New Jersey. This is the Alpha, this is the customer, Alpha Motors, assembly. In New Jersey. In West Orange, New Jersey. Okay, so we put the little numbers. This is number 3. Number 4, number 5, number 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so we have created a first view of the main areas of our process. Questions so far? After we have this, we start getting some information that we have gathered before in our trip. Here we produce steel coils. And this is step number 9. Here we have some parameters describing the warehouse the facilities, the warehouses. Okay. So I'm going to put a box there and some lines. Basically what we have is we have a raw material inventory of 336 hours. Put it here somewhere. Raw material inventory. Why am I representing inventory in hours? What's that mean? Can somebody tell me? This is the amount of time that the raw material helps me cover this demand. Okay, so if the customer demand changes, my raw material hour inventory changes. This is the coverage time. Okay. Does it make sense? So I'm noticing you give no feedback. I don't know why exactly. The only one interacting is a little bit Christian, but I don't know. It's your call, okay? If you don't have questions. The work in progress inventory, it's 110 hours. And the finished good inventory, it's 48 hours. Okay, work in progress. And finished goods inventory. It's like that. Okay, and then we're working on this facility. We're working on 3 shifts, 5 days a week. We have an EPI of 3 days, so you already know what the EPI is. I hope you remember. Every part, every interval. And the quality is, the number of defects is 2000 ppms. If you don't know what EPI is, Google it, every part, every interval. A measure of flexibility. Okay. Then we go and map the beta wipers facility. And just don't go into the whole detail. Remember, we are looking for a managerial perspective. We have here a raw material of 56 hours, a WIP of 41 hours, finished goods of 12 hours. We are working on 2 shifts. We work 5 days a week. We have an EPI of 1 day. And we have a quality of 400 ppm. And the last step today, we map the alpha motors. We have raw materials of 50 hours, WIP of 2 hours, finished goods of 14 hours. The closer we get to the final customer, the less inventory we should be running because it gets more expensive. 2 shifts, 5 days, EPI of 1 day, and 5 ppm. Okay. So I guess this is number 10. Number 11 and number 12. So so far we are doing this good. All right. So this is up to page 23 in the book. Are you cool with this? Okay, yep. Good. Thank you for your feedback, Christian. So